Hey, future Black and Latinx leaders. You are listening to the Keys to the Office podcast, where we interview amazing professionals who share their individual career paths to set you up for success. We're giving you the keys to the office, and all you need to do is show up ready to unlock the door. Let's jump into today's episode.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Keys family. This is your host, Christina. We have an intense episode today, and I say it's intense because he's going to speak to me, even though he doesn't know it, and a number of other people who are multi-passionate, right? Who have a desire to pursue multiple paths and how to make it all work. So we have Damon DaRil Nailer here with us to talk about all things entrepreneurial journey, his career paths, and hopefully impart a bit of his wisdom. This amazing man has been on multiple media outlets, has published quite a bit. So we are in for a treat. Get your notepads and pens ready. Welcome to the Keys to the Office podcast, Damon.
Thanks so much, Christina, and your audience. We're just glad and delighted, elated to be with you. And we're looking forward to having this great conversation. And I'm looking forward to receiving something from you as well.
Awesome. So I mentioned multi-passionate. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do, all the things you do.
Well, it's a huge list.
Yes.
We'll kind of start with the current things that I'm doing. At the present, I'm a consultant and I own a consultancy, Kitril Consultancy, and I wear many hats. So I'm an author, I'm a motivational speaker, I'm a parent educator, and I'm a content creator. Those are the main things that I'm doing at the present. Mm-hmm. And so I'm actually managing a network called the Trust Network. I'm working with an organization called the National Association for Community Mediation, working with another organization called Black Women for Positive Change with their a voting initiative. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing a lot. And I'm also serving as a parent educator with a local nonprofit organization. And in addition to that, I'm doing my workshops, doing my, working on some projects right now, an upcoming course, and just doing those things. Mm-hmm. On a personal side, I'm a father and I'm a husband. So that's, like I said, that's the abbreviated version of everything.
And that's plenty. That's plenty. Let's pause for 2 seconds. Parent educator. You've mentioned that, and I actually saw that phrase or that title somewhere else this week. Talk to me a little bit about what a parent educator does.
Initially, I was a full-time employee with the organization, and I transitioned from that in May. But as a parent educator, what happens when people are referred or they come into contact with the state, they lose custody of their children, they will get referred to our organization for mandatory parenting classes. Mm-hmm. And they would come in, and I'm certified in different parenting programs. One is called the Nurturing Parenting Program, the Positive Parenting Program, which is called Triple P. And I'm also certified as an ACE educator, Adverse Childhood Experiences educator. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But so we when they come in, we have basically two main courses that we do. One is a 3-week course, which is the Triple P or the Positive Parenting Program. Okay. And then the Nurturing Parenting Program is 16 weeks. And they're with us for 4 months, and they come in weekly, and we just address different concepts that pertain to parenting. But also we will bring in people to do different life skill sessions to help parents to build those necessary life skills. But yes, that's what a parent educator is, someone who works with parents, and typically they were the ones who were referred by DCFS.
Gotcha. So, wow. What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, you're doing a lot now. Talk to me a bit about, childhood Damon and what he wanted to be, maybe teenager. What did you see for yourself in terms of your future?
The irony of that is that I wanted to be something so simple but complex. I wanted to be a positive role model. That was my idea, I promise you.
Wow.
And that's the reason why I took the career path of becoming the teacher initially, my first profession.
Right.
Is because I wanted to be a positive role model. And I always tell this story. My friends and I, we would be sitting around, of course, everybody, man, I want to be rich. I want to have this kind of car. I want to live in this kind of house. I want to live comfortable. I want to have this amount of money. And I'm over here in the corner. Man, I just want to be a positive role model. They're like, come on, man, serious? Give us something more than that. That's all I wanted to be. And it was because I felt as though we had role models, but there was some character flaws in a lot of the role models. And it was like, well, man, when I grow up, I want to make sure I have it together in those areas for children and young people looking up to me. Mm-hmm. And that was like my goal. And that's why, as I stated, I ended up going in the direction of becoming an educator first, mm-hmm. never realizing that I was going to be doing everything that I'm doing today, but just always had the open mindset that anything that I put my mind to, that I can do it. And just discovering my passions, just discovering what I call my dominant gift, the strongest talent, which is communication. And of course, mm-hmm. teaching comes into play with that. But yes, that's how it started off. And that was just my ideal goal, which was to be a positive role model.
Wow.
But yes.
I don't hear that often. So this is awesome. This is good. Let's dive in for a second, because I think that's foreign, but I would love to hear more individuals think in that broad sense and maybe not, get so into the nitty gritty, because there's so many things you can do with that. Yeah. Okay. So you're done with high school. What happens next? Do you go straight to college? Did you take a break? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I went straight to college, mm-hmm. and I pursued elementary education. Well, actually, I was going to pursue secondary education and being a high school teacher. And I'll never forget, I had a friend, and this guy had such a profound impact on my life by just this one walk to our dorms from class. As I'm telling him I want to be a secondary education teacher, and that I told him the same thing I just told you. I want to be a positive role model. He said, D, let me tell you something, man. He said, think about it. When kids get to high school, they're kind of set in their ways. They've been molded. They're not as flexible as children. And he's like, have you ever thought about elementary? I was like, I thought about it, man, but I don't know. He said, just consider it. Think about it. He's like, because you will reach them better. You'll be able to impact them more mm-hmm. at that age. And then I thought about it, and it made sense. Yeah. And I promise you, the next week, I went and changed my major to elementary education. And that's basically how I got on that path. But thank God, my second semester in college, I ended up having an epiphany or come to Jesus, whatever you want to call it, and ended mm-hmm. up getting saved and giving my life to God. And that's when everything really changed.
Wow.
But I was still on the same path. I believe it was God's divine purpose and will for me to become the educator. Mm-hmm. But yes, that's how I went. I went straight from high school into college, moved away to where I am, because I'm originally from New Orleans.
Okay.
I'm living in, of course, like I told you earlier, Monroe, Louisiana, which is at the northern part of the state. But mm-hmm. yes, that's how I went. And I finished up in the 4 years and actually ended up teaching right before I started my teaching career, right before I graduated, like a month before I graduated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, did that 7 years. And then we did the pivot. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Yeah.
But yes, that's where we pivoted there after the 7 years.
Okay, so we're going to get to the pivot in a second. How were you able to land your first job before you actually graduated? Did you have internships along the way? Were you volunteering? How were you positioned to slide right into a role even before you graduated?
What happened, there was someone who I knew who had done that, mm-hmm. right before they graduated. They were in education and they ended up getting pulled. And I just sensed that, hey, this could happen to me if it happened to that person.
Yeah.
And as a teacher, of course, when you're in college at that final semester, you do your student teaching. And what I did, I got my resume together. I took it to the local school system so they could have it on file. I mean, I'm prepped. I'm believing that this could happen.
That's the key right there.
That's the key, right? You do your part. You do your part.
Yes.
And so I did that summer before my final semester. I took my resume and I knew where I was going to be student teaching. And so I went in and I was student teaching. I did my first half and I was on my final half at my second school because the first one was a junior high. The second was at an elementary. And I'm there and this guy, he's a supervisor with the school system. And he sees me and he comes up, he introduces himself. And he says, man, are you planning on staying around here once you graduate? I'm like, yes, sir. I definitely plan on remaining here in Monroe. It's like, okay, I'll keep you in mind. Okay, may have something for you. I say about a week or two later, there was a local elementary school where they got rid of the principal, right? So this guy who was the supervisor now becomes the interim principal. And he calls me, he's like, look, I have 2 available positions for you and you can start right away before you graduate. So he says, I'm at this one school. I'm going to bring you here to interview for this one. And then we'll get you hooked up with the other school as well. If this one doesn't pan out for you. I went to that one, did the interview. It didn't pan out, but I ended up, the other school wanted me badly.
Yeah.
And so I started November 17th of 1997, and I graduated December 13th of 1997. So almost right at a month before I graduated. Yes.
Wow.
But like I said, I did the prep work.
That's it.
Got myself into position, did all I could do, and then when the opportunity came, I was ready.
You were ready.
And this is a teachable moment. Always be ready for your opportune moment.
Say that. Yes.
Because when it comes, you have to be ready. You can't get ready. I can't say, oh, wait, I don't have my resume yet. I'm not prepped. No.
Right. Stay ready.
Yes. So we have to be proactive and we have to be ahead of the curve. Sometimes we find ourselves always behind the curve. So I always think about life. I think of activity. And I always think of 3 things. Either we're inactive, not doing anything, reactive, we're allowing life to dictate things to us and then we're responding, or we're proactive in that we're getting ahead, we're seeing ahead, and we're making plans for the future.
Yeah.
Ironically, in certain situations and seasons in your life, you're going to have to be one of the 3 that I mentioned. Sometimes you're going to have to be inactive because you don't know what's going on. You got to wait.
Yeah.
Other times you're going to have to let life make a move and let things happen, then you react. But then there are going to be the other times where you can be proactive.
Yep.
You can see the vision, you can see where you're going, and you can plot your course. But you want to try your best to stay in that mode, because then you can kind of have more control over your destiny and your career and where you're going.
That's so good. That's so good. Actually, one of my previous episodes with Amora Loren, she just talked about the importance of staying ready in her industry, which is entertainment. You have to have everything together, because when you get that call, you're not going to have time to pull this together, get an outfit. You have to stay ready. And here you are echoing that. And I hope our listeners are taking notes. I hope the community is listening to the importance of that and how it's so critical to success. Time waits for no one. So
does not. That opportunity will go to the next person who is ready.
Yep. Wow. So that's good. Talk to me about the pivot, because I imagine in those, I think you mentioned 7 years as an educator, you made an impact, right? You were living in your purpose, making that impact, being that positive role model to these students. What happened? Why'd you stop?
All right. So what ended up happening, I would say about year 4 or year 5, I think it was year 4. Yes, year 4, a different passion began to emerge within me. And it's ironic that you just mentioned entertainment, which was music. And 99, I released my first single because I became a producer now, executive producer and regular producer, songwriter, and artist, hip hop, positive hip hop, Christian hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
And I released my first single in 99. So in 2000, I released my first LP. So I really began to have a desire for that.
Mm-hmm.
And as my desire for that increased, my desire for just the classroom portion of teaching, not teaching of the kids, but just I felt so confined there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't even realize, of course, at that time that I had all of these other talents in me and that I had the entrepreneurial spirit as well. And that was what was becoming to emerge and kind of overwhelm and suppress the teaching, that classroom aspect of it. And so was in about 2001, I kind of started to plan and plot my course for making a transition. But I kid you not, each year was like, no, wasn't ready. I felt divinely inspired that I'm not ready yet. And finally in 2004, I was released to do it. And when I stepped out, I stepped into not just the music, but motivational speaking and writing. And what ended up happening near the end of that 7th year, I began to get all kinds of requests for speaking engagements. And every time you look, doors were opening. I was getting a request here for elementary school commencement exercise, a faith group here, a youth group here. And I began to say, okay, man, I can see myself doing this as a career.
Yeah.
Right? And at the same time, I'm beginning to compile information, not knowing that I'm about to write a book and publish a book, but I would just get these profound thoughts, or profound statements, as I call it. And that became my first book, The Great Taste of Success.
Mm-hmm.
And so a good example, in order to pursue and achieve a dream, one must first have a dream. Little statements like that would come.
Yeah.
And I just began to record them and I kept them in a notebook. And then I get the inspiration and idea, okay, I could compile these into a book. And I'll kid you not, one Saturday I sat at my dinner table and I had 22 at that time of those statements. And I was able to get inspired by God. And I wrote 28 in one day. One day. So I had a total of 50 proverbs. And that was the name of The Great Taste of Success, 50 potent and inspirational proverbs. And not just the proverbs we have, but then we have information and stories that accompany and kind of confirm those proverbs.
Mm-hmm.
So when I stepped out, like I said, I stepped out into the music production, the motivational speaking, and the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm doing that. Things are going well. Doors are opening. All of a sudden, I hear like a dry spell, like everything just boom.
It happens.
It happens, right?
Let's talk about it, right?
Knowing that, okay, you have to constantly, because I had just put out some new stuff, but I didn't follow up and put out anything new. And so that's why things slowed down.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I made my next pivot and began a janitorial business with a partner. And so we set that up. It lasted 12 years. As far as the partnership, it only lasted a few years, and that was a breakup, and that's a whole nother story.
Wow. Okay.
And I was able to keep the janitorial for 12 years. And when I say 12 years exactly, 12 years exactly.
Wow.
So I started February 1st of 2006. And I closed it February 1st of 2018.
Wow.
And that on that day is when I started as the parent educator.
Okay.
With the organization.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so like I said, all these dots are connecting.
Yeah.
And that's why I always tell people, and you made a great point when you said that when you look at what you want to be, kind of have a broader sense. It gives you more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I just said I wanted to become a pharmacist or, something else, then that just locks you into one path. But when you have a more of a diverse and a broader vision, you can take all kind of paths, but at the same time, you're still fulfilling your vision.
Yes.
I'm still an educator, just in a different capacity. I'm still speaking. I'm still writing. All of those gifts are being used, but in a variety of capacities. And that's one thing to the listeners you want to be able to do. Mm-hmm. That's why I always try to, I even have a program called the G3 Journey where I help you to find your strongest talent. Mm-hmm. And whenever you go, I don't care wherever you're positioned, you're going to always bring those talents to the table. That's why you want to learn, what you're good at, because I don't care where we put you, that's where the flow is going to be.
Yeah.
That's where the oil is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's where your prosperity, your passion is all going to be wrapped into that.
Mm-hmm.
If I can help you find that, it doesn't matter where I put you. We know what you're going to bring to the table.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I love it. You didn't put yourself in a box and say, this is what I'm going to do. You said, this is the impact I'm going to have. And I can do this in so many different ways. And you know what? Let me try this way, in this way, in this way. There are no limits, right? Other than the ones we place on ourselves.
Thank you. We put them there. And in cases, some cases, others will try, but you can't allow it. Just imagine me. I never forget what I told some people, especially at church, about how I was about to step out into what I was about to step into. How you going to do all of that? How you going to be a speaker, a music producer? And I am. I'm going to do it, guys.
Yeah.
He's outlined it. We talked. I have the plan. I'm going to do it. They couldn't see it. But of course, now they see it. Like everybody sees it now, that I'm still able to do all of those things. But yes, you can allow others to put the limitations, and then please don't do it to yourself. Don't do it to yourself. Yes.
So I have a question along those same lines. You have individuals asking, how are you going to do all of it? Right? Talk to me as, again, someone who's multi-passionate and wants to impact my community in multiple ways and multiple communities, right? So there are layers to this thing called Christina. Talk to me a little bit about how you keep it all together, how you make it happen, how you create your form of balance, right? And you can tackle this and this. Oh, and let's not forget being a dad and a husband, right? How do you create your own balance?
Okay, several ways. Priority, number one, prioritizing everything, and then organizing. Those are the key two. And whenever you prioritize and you organize, as I stated, knowing what my strongest talents are, anything that comes to me that is outside of those, I basically just reject. You have to be able to say no.
Yeah.
Okay. So that kind of helps me. The other thing I always say, when it comes to the different capacities and the hats I wear, I'm a part-time, all of those things, as far as a speaker, author, writer, consultant, content creator. When it comes to full-time, I'm always a dad, I'm always a husband, I'm always a Christian or a man of God. But outside of that, everything else is part-time. And you have to have that balance. And I have to have that perspective, because my kids, to the world, I'm like you say, I'm DaRil, I'm this and that other, but I'm just dad at home.
That's it.
So my wife, that's his Damon. Yeah, I know him as such and such. That's my hubby.
Yeah.
And, and when in the sight of God, regardless of what I'm doing, I'm his child, right? So those are the three main things that at all times I'm those. But everything else, it has a time, a place, and a season. And what I do, I work according to my passions. And I call it seasons of inspiration. And that means at that particular time, during that particular time period, there's a heavy creative inspiration on me to operate in one of those. One season, it might be the music. The next season, it might be the writing. The next season, it might be the speaking. Just whichever one I'm sensing that strongest urge, I step into that. Yeah. And I kid you not, every time, because it's divine and it's a spiritual thing. Because I feel, like I say, it's a presence. God's presence just descends on me. And when I get this inspiration, like I told you about writing those 28 and
right, it just flows.
It flows. And when you do that, you accomplish so much more than just trying to plot it out and plan it. And saying, well, okay, I'm going to sit down and work on my book today. I'm going to sit around and work on my music today. No, when those seasons of inspiration hit, I just go at it. And I when I say I accomplish so much in those short periods of time, I have so much information and material built up because of working like that. Yeah. The average person, if you force it, you'll find you get a lot of writer's block.
And
you'll find yourself losing creativity. I always tell creatives, when you get to that place, that's when you put it down.
Wow.
Put it down. Notice each time I told you with the different things like my books and even my music, I produce the stuff in advance, but at many times it's not complete. When I lose that urge, I just put it down. But you keep everything. Every concept, every idea, every song, every book concept, you keep it. And this is where we have to be organized and responsible.
Pretty much.
Yes, to keep all of your material, because what will happen, you'll get to a place and you go back and review it and you'll begin to see how things connect. Because it's like your life, and just as a creative, you have a bunch of puzzle pieces. And during different times, you assemble, you create the puzzle pieces, but the key is assembling them. There's a time and a season, a day and an hour and a moment for everything. But if you compile it and you keep it, as you go back and review it, you'll begin to see the connections and how they all fit together to form the picture that you're trying to make. But it's all about, as I stated, following your passion and knowing what's my strongest urge right now. And when you do that, you're going with your flow. You're going with the grain. You're going to accomplish so much more than, as opposed to just trying to sit down and force yourself to do it. Wow. Yes.
Two things stood out. One, setting boundaries, right? Being able to say no to things that are not aligned with your priorities in that moment, right?
Exactly.
You've got family and God, and those things are first and foremost.
Yes.
All this other stuff, like, you have to be able to say no. And I think that's something that we can all do a better job of in certain areas. Like, okay, I don't have to pick up the phone every time it rings. I don't have to respond to the text message every time as a matter of fact, turn the notifications off. And I actually do that. I don't know the last time my phone rang other than like an emergency call, an override. Be mindful of the distractions, right? And allow yourself to flex, right? Don't stick yourself in the box and be rigid and say, I have to write for 2 hours every day. I know writers who do it, or people who want to be a writer. I have to write for this certain period of time every day. And then they beat themselves up when nothing's coming, right? So they're not allowing themselves to flex. They're not listening to that season that you talk about, right? They're not, what did you call it? A season of inspiration.
Right. Yes.
They're not, like that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And as creatives, we actually are natural empaths, but we have to learn how to develop that. And like you say, what happens, I think sometimes we can listen to people who are not really creatives or are creative, but not as creative sometimes.
Okay.
And when you listen to those kind of people, their perspective is kind of going to be more rigid, more limited. And like you say, more goal-oriented. Like, okay, you got to write 2 hours a day. You need to put out content every month. And they're going to be rigid. Whereas a creative, you can't do that. I give you a prime example. And I know you've heard this and probably more than likely experienced it. Especially back in the day when all the artists were confined to those label contracts. If you notice, especially the first CD normally, or the first project was awesome, but sometimes those subsequent projects never matched up to the first. And the reason being is exactly what I'm talking about. Once they signed that deal, it became a business, and now all of a sudden these restraints, these time limitations and everything are put, deadlines. But before, they had the freedom just to create when they were inspired. See? And so you don't want to put those on yourself. You have to keep, of course, we want to be balanced and we want to be organized. We do want to set some goals and deadlines. But at the same time, as you stated, we have to be able to flex. Always keep your vision in mind, but understand you're going to have to make adjustments for the unforeseen circumstances and situations that arise. things are going to happen. And that's why you have to be flexible and say, well, okay, I wanted to accomplish it in this amount of time, but it's more than likely it's going to take longer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes your route changes. It's like me. I stepped out to initially do the speaking, the music production, and the writing, and just do that full time. Didn't know that I was going to have to pivot into starting a janitorial service to survive.
Yeah.
But that was a part of the plan too. Even though it seemed like it was a detour, that was actually on my path.
How?
Because of the lessons learned there in owning a business and having employees, they're relevant to me now. Everything you do, every profession you're in, there's something to glean from. There are lessons learned. There are some ideas and some experiences that are going to be relevant to you later in life. That's why I say keep everything. Hold on to everything. Treasure everything. Don't downplay any experience that you have, especially professional experiences. I promise you. Because as I look back over my life, everything I've done, I've learned something in each setting, in each capacity. But, and don't think sometimes that it's detouring you. Oftentimes that's on the path. It just it wasn't your path, but it is your life's path.
Yes. Yes.
But yes.
Yeah. I think there's this negative connotation when we think of detours, right? Like this is how it's supposed to be, right? Be mindful of the lesson that's here, ride it out, right? And keep everything, because you'll continue to have these ideas for whatever your purpose is and you're passionate about along the way. So keep everything, continue to write, continue to, when you're in that season of inspiration. I love it. How do you stay organized? Because I think about, maybe the student who already is starting a business or who already is pursuing a passion. And they're like, oh, I now want to do this and I want to do this. And how do you stay organized? Are we talking pen and paper, old school? Are we talking, fancy, software? Like, how do you keep it together?
Well, it's normally a combination of things. I mostly use my calendar on my, email calendar, my Google, and plan everything out and make sure before you commit to anything, you look at your calendar, making sure that you have availability.
Yeah.
Don't overbook yourself. Try not to have meetings back to back unless it's inevitable.
Yeah.
But if, because sometimes it is, you just have to have this meeting and it's kind of back to back. But I try to avoid that because sometimes, of course, things overlap and it runs into the next. Try to keep that space. But also having you basically a daily to-do list, knowing, okay, these are the things that I have to do today. And after a while, you get to a place where you kind of have some of it in memory, but always revert to what you have written. That way you won't forget it. But yes, like I said, I go to that calendar and I see all my dates to make sure when I'm talking to someone, I tell you, okay, I'm able to send you my availability. Monday from this hour to this hour, I'm available. Tuesday from this hour to this hour, and just stay on it. Look at that every day. Look at that day's events and then the upcoming day's events. But it takes consistency. Now, this is where discipline comes in, which is ultimately being able to force yourself to do things that are necessary, but sometimes aren't fun.
But critical.
They're critical. It's a part of the process of your success, though.
Yep.
And if you don't pay attention to it and address it, it can hinder your success. You don't want to become a person who's not a woman or a man of his or her word. You said, and of course we make mistakes. We drop the ball.
Of course.
And those times we just apologize. If we can rectify it and make amends, we do. If not, just giving that verbal, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's the best we can do. But we want to try our best to honor our commitments. Treat everything as important. Every meeting, every interview, every connection is important. Don't sleep on anything. Don't sleep on anybody. And when you get that mind frame, it'll make you more organized because you want, sometimes people will do this. For instance, you and I have this conversation we're having here today, right?
Right.
Say, for instance, somebody from BET contacted me and said they needed me for this time. Some people say, well, nah, they would have reached out and said, look, sis,
Yep.
we got to reschedule this.
Yeah, right?
He called me. This is all available. No, this interview is just as important as if I was to interview with BET, NBC, CBS, whoever, because I made this commitment to you. And I believe God honors that because everything and everybody's important. Yeah. But like I said, I've known people to do that. They have it set up, but then all of a sudden something bigger comes, and it's just like they forget all about it. They just kick you off and just throw it, slam the door in your face. You're like,
yes,
wow.
Yes, it happens. Yes. It happens, unfortunately. When I say goals, right? What comes to mind when you think about setting goals and what that looks like for you in your success?
Well, as we talked about earlier, kind of with vision, and in many cases, it's kind of broad. And I try to specify it as much as possible. But I always kind of try to align it with the things that I'm doing and I'm skilled at. For instance, a prime example here, my goal, I'm working on a communications program that I'm about to release in about a month.
Okay.
And I actually started with it last year. A partner and I, we were trying to do a communications conference. Didn't work out as we had planned, but the goal was not only to have that conference, but it was to create a program that we were supposed to do. Well, long story short, she didn't get to finish. So I was like, look, I have to go ahead and do this. Maybe we could get together later on a 2.0 or something. But it was over a year because that was last year in July. And so, but the ultimate goal was to finish that program, produce it, and get it out. And that's what I'm in the process of right now, putting the finishing touches on it. Because I actually recorded the videos way last year.
Oh, wow.
Right after the conference, it wasn't as successful as we thought because that was still a goal. And I sat on it and held it until this perfect time. And this is the time to release it now. And I've received all kinds of confirmations letting me know that this is the time, this is the season to release it. And as I stated, I'm just in the process of formalizing or finalizing the PDF version of the program, but it's going to feature 3 videos and then also like a quiz and an answer key, and then the PDF with all of the information as well. But, that was the goal, to create that program. And initially, we didn't really have a time frame or a timeline, but I had to set one because other than that, if you don't, you just say every year, I'm going to do that program.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that CD. I'm going to write that book. At some place you got to say, okay, look, I got to put something out, even if it's not the full book, just give an appetite, appetizer of something, to put something out, even if the full project isn't complete. If you're an artist, put out a single, just put something out just to kind of get you started. And as you get that out and you start to see the success, is going to generate more passion in it. It's going to create momentum. Yeah. And once momentum is going, that's what really start happening. But yes.
That's awesome. So in terms of this multi-passionate, multifaceted entrepreneurial journey you're on, talk to us about your biggest obstacle, right? What's been your biggest hurdle, your biggest challenge? And then what are you doing? What have you done? What do you continue to do, right, to get it out of the way, to reduce the impact?
This is so funny and timely. I would say for me, and I'm serious, just being honest, my biggest obstacle has been getting, I guess, like a nucleus or a core group to just be there with me, to support me and help me. Because I find myself, I'm because I guess the thing is I do so much, it's hard to have that core group who can do all these different things. So I understand that concept. And that's why I'm very independent. I can do a lot on my own. But I just reached out to some people to help me with some of my endeavors that I'm doing. Like I said, the program is one, but also I just started my own clothing line, right?
Wow.
I'm looking at brand ambassadors for that. And like I just told one person, because I'm considering them for both, I was like, look, I need your help.
Yeah.
I explained that to the person. I said, look, throughout the years, I have people who come in for seasons, but I hadn't had anybody just a constant. And I was like, I need your help. You know, I see your skills, your talents. I see what you can offer. You know, are you willing to partner? And the person says they want to partner. But that's been my biggest thing, just having like that, I guess, one team or maybe a few people who would just take the whole journey with me. A lot of times people have that. But for me, you know, and this is a lesson learned too, though, to help somebody, you have to look at your team in a different way. So for instance, I would have to consider you like a part of my team, right? Not in that we're going to be doing just a whole bunch, which we might later, but this particular connection we have, this collaboration here is a whole part of the bigger picture. This is a puzzle piece, right?
Absolutely.
So like platforms like YouTube, Facebook, I have to look at them as my team and partners because they're the places that I'm able to get my content out of. And that's how sometimes you have to start looking at your connections, because it's very seldom, especially in this generation, the way people are wired, that you're going to have this group that's going to be with you for 20 and 30 years. In the past,
good luck. You might get 6 weeks. I'm just saying.
The loyalty, the commitment, and dedication.
You might get 6 weeks.
It's not the same. It's not the same. Yeah. And so, that's been my greatest hurdle because like I was telling the person, I said, I have all kind of ideas. I got all kind of programs, books coming.
Yeah.
I just need some help with people helping me get it out there who are going to believe in me and believe with me and get it out there. And the thing is, I do, but it's just like having people who are going to just come and push you and help you. I guess sometimes on the outside looking in, it's like, oh man, he got it. You know, he's doing all this. He does everything. He got it.
Yeah.
But like I'm telling him, I got it, but I need help.
I need help.
I do need help. But yes, I would say that's been my biggest thing, you know, just getting that help. Because I've been very resourceful. God has connected me with all kind of people, you know, networking and stuff. And that's a part of the program, networking knowledge, just giving people tools and strategies and answering the 6 main questions to be able to network effectively. That's going to make or break you. The connections you make. Yeah.
We have to dig deeper into that. And I don't know if we want to do it now or once the program is released, but I want to hear more about that because that's, I think, a critical part of the overall keys to the office, right? Networking.
That's it. Yeah, we'll definitely, let's do it afterwards. Okay. If you don't mind, I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
But that is critical. That's what's going to get you to the next level, basically in everything. That divine connection, you know, that divine connector with that opportunity to open you up into just a whole new network. And I mean, the thing is with my experience, I have stories that go with it. And a prime example, okay, just really quickly, the organization I'm working at, right, as the parent educator, they bring in this guy to come and he deals with what's called cultural intuitiveness. He does workshops on that, right? So he comes in and, you know, I won't get into all of the logistics because it's kind of a longer story, but let's just say I was selected to be a part of the leadership team who would kind of work closely with him.
Okay.
And what ended up happening, we met, we vibed. I had my press kit ready.
You stayed ready.
After we vibed, we met. I sent that to him, told him what I did and all of that. He reviewed it. He contacted me probably not long after, about a month or so after. He said, look, I'm about to start an initiative in Indiana. And I think you would be a great fit for it with your skill set and all that you do. And, you know, I would like you to come on board as a coach. We'll meet in November, discuss it, and you wouldn't get started until January. This was 2020. It was 19 at the time, but in January 2020.
Okay.
Met with him, ended up joining that.
Wow.
I've been doing that 2.5 years. This is actually my last month with that.
Okay.
But him being that connector, ended up a few months ago, he had another opportunity. He knows how I work. He knows my strengths, my weakness. He knows me.
Yeah.
He told me about that. Ended up, that's how I'm with the Trust Network because of him. And then with the other organization, another opportunity. But that one person, that one divine connector has brought me into this huge network that is connecting me with all kind of other people.
Yeah.
And we're talking about next level, top people, leaders, people in high political.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
That's how it works. And like I say, but it's all about strategy and knowing the different ways of how you do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's an art, and we can really call it a science to it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm wanting to teach people. That way you can be effective at networking, because some people, they don't even realize what it actually is. And that's one of the things I do in a program. I differentiate between what's socializing and what's networking. Some people think they're networking and you're just socializing.
Yeah.
There's some things that need to happen if you're trying to network.
Yeah.
And there's a difference, but yes.
I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to part 2 of our conversation, where we dive deeper into that. I think a whole episode needs to be dedicated to communication and networking.
Definitely.
Again, specifically for our college students. I think it's so critical. So recognizing that, we call this the keys to the office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about one major key you could share with a college student, be it traditional or non-traditional college student. So someone who could be my age, because I actually in 2020 graduated with my master's. So like traditional or non-traditional, someone who's studying for something, and is passionate about multiple areas and not sure where they want to take their journey. Talk to me about a major key to success, something they can do today, this weekend, something they need to be focused on. All
right. And so I'm going to take you to what I call it an inventory, basically a gift inventory, or a way for you to try to use the process of elimination to arrive at what your dominant gift is as your strongest talent.
Ooh.
Ask yourself 4 questions, all right?
Mm-hmm.
What am I good at doing? And we're talking about being objective and brutally honest about what you're good at, okay?
Yeah.
In my program, I teach there's actually 6 regions of giftedness, and your whatever gift or talent you have will fall in one of those regions. But the key is just you being honest with yourself. Am I a communicator? Am I, a heart person? Am I handy? Do I like science? Do I like math? Do I like people? Be honest with yourself. And what area, try to streamline it and narrow it down and hone in on what you're really good at. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then I say the next question is, what am I passionate about? I put your being good at something first above your passion, because sometimes you can be passionate about something but not good at it. The example I always use is American Idol. Oh my
Singing
God.
is my passion. Singing is my passion.
I can do it, right?
Everyone in the house might say, I'm glad it's just a passion. Because no one in the world should go through what we go through. Anyway.
Exactly.
I get it.
So you got to say, okay, and be honest with yourself. I'm good at this, and I'm passionate about it. The passion has to be second. Yeah. Because I know people, and we can go all over with this, sports, entertainment, whatever, right?
Yeah.
That they're passionate, but that talent is that's just not you. You don't have the capacity.
Not your ministry.
Preach. That is not your ministry.
Yes.
Okay. Third question is, what do I do has a positive impact on others? Here is effectiveness. You're good at it, you like it, but now what are others saying?
Yeah.
This is critical, because whatever you're doing, remember, your gift is for us. It's for you. You're going to benefit. It's a win-win. But most importantly, we're the recipients of whatever it is you've been created to do. At some point, we should be able to say, oh, girl, oh, man, you're great. You need to pursue that. You need to, there's a career in that. There's a business there. There's something there, right? Even when you first do it, there should be a raw potential there.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, throughout the years, you'll develop it, but there should be some raw potential there.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you find what you're good at, what you like, and then people say, okay, you're good at that. The last question is, what could you do on a voluntary basis or volunteer to do, where you don't receive any monetary compensation and you're still fulfilled and satisfied? Prime example, I was good. Okay, I'm going to use myself as the process for the process of elimination. I was good at, far as running a janitorial business. I'm a cleaning guy. I could clean like no other. Okay. Wasn't very passionate about it. It paid the bill. I was effective because I got paid a lot of money doing the cleaning. The last one, I was not volunteering to clean. You are paying me.
It's not happening.
Not happening. You are paying me if I'm cleaning, right? Now, let's flip it. My dominant gift, and I'm going to give one of the regions of giftedness away, is communication, or the mouth gifts, as I call it. I'm good at it. Definitely passionate about it. People love when I communicate, when I speak, when I teach, and I do it for free all the time.
Yeah.
That's how you know what your strongest talent is. If you have to always get money for it, more like that's not your strongest talent.
Yeah.
You wake me up at 3:00 and say, look, somebody wants to interview, they want to talk. I'm jumping up, I'm ready. Because that's my strongest talent. You want to find a career or profession or start a business that's going to align with what your strongest talent. You're going to be getting paid. And it's like, wow, I'm getting paid to do what I love. You're going to almost feel guilty because you're enjoying what you're doing so much.
Yeah.
And it's because you're aligning with your strongest talent and your divine purpose. My mantra or my philosophy is all men and women have a skill and a mission to fulfill. Okay. Your mission to fulfill is based on you using your skill.
Yep.
So if I can help you find your skill, by default, we know what your mission is. It's to use that gift, and as we've talked about, in different capacities. It's to profit with all, profit everywhere. Not just in sometimes in a religious base, they want to confine it there. No, it's for you to profit in the secular, in the U.S., abroad, in community, in the state, yes.
Yeah. No limit.
Yeah. If you could get something that fits all four of those and get, like I say, kind of plot a course and trying to go in that direction, either as a profession, a career, or, as a business, then more than likely you're going to experience success. You're going to experience
the major key right there.
Yes.
Yes. I love it. So what are you working on now, big project wise? I know the communication piece, you'll come back to talk to us about that. What big projects are you working on? How can we find you? How can we support you? How can we get your support and feed off your energy?
Yeah. Well, outside of the communications program, I'm planning on, and I'm thinking I'm leaning towards it. I've been kind of put it off a few years. But some of my older material that I recorded, I did a Christmas project way back when, and I'm thinking I'm looking at re-releasing that this December. Well, actually before that, because it'll be for Christmas, the Christmas season. But re-releasing that, and then next year doing like a concept CD. I'm thinking about releasing it on January 1st, New Year's Day. Called Love and Praise, that features some of my top hits from some of my former CDs. So those are two main things. And then next year, I think I can't really say because it's kind of based on my inspiration, my season of inspiration.
Yep.
I've been working on a book, my spiritual book. I can't release the title yet, but I think I'm almost complete with that. And so I'm looking at possibly publishing it next year, which would be basically my fifth book.
Wow.
But so those are the kind of the things, the irons in the fire there that we're working on. As far as finding me, I'm all over social media. Actually, if you just type in my name, Damon DaRil Nailer or Damon Nailer, it's gonna pull up all my features. It's gonna pull up my social media. My actual website is Kitril, Kitril Consult.com. And so, you can go there and see all of the services and the things that I do.
Awesome.
But yes, those are the basic places that you can reach out to me. In my email, you can use MRRILLAY at gmail.com. But yes, like I said, if you forget all of that, just type in Damon Nailer.
Just type in your name.
Yeah. Pull up everything. Google me, like they say.
Yes, Google it. We'll have all of that in the show notes. Damon, thank you so much. Like, the amount of wisdom and experience and insight you shared, and the delivery of it, right? Like the delivery, the messaging, I think is going to have a huge impact. I absolutely cannot wait to have you back. So finish up that project you started last year so we can talk about it, because there's a need for it, right?
Definitely.
I think about the fact that, just HR hat on for a second, the fact that, hiring season is about to slow down as we get into the holidays, but when it picks back up, and we're dealing with maybe recession, but as it picks back up come Jan 1, maybe second week into January, we want our students, we want our community empowered to network, to be able to communicate during the interview process, to really position themselves for success. And I think that communication and networking piece are important. So I'm holding you to it.
Yes, yeah. Oh, yeah. I give you my word, so I'm there. We put it out, so we got to do it.
It is happening. We have said it, and so it is so. Yes. So thank you so much for carving out the time to chat with us today. I appreciate it more than you know. This has been awesome, even for me. I don't know if you saw, I've been taking notes for myself. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Christina. I appreciate the opportunity. Like I said, appreciate your audience, and hopefully they'll get some actionable tips that they can implement immediately. But I thank you. I appreciate you. I've really enjoyed myself. Good. And receiving from you as well. Iron sharpens iron, as they say.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. All right. Thank you, and take care.
All right. Thank you. You too.
If you're hearing this message, you have listened to the entire episode. And for that, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a review and check out our website at www.thekeystotheoffice.com. We look forward to connecting with you in a future episode. Until then, go be amazing.